Learn how to select HTML elements using JavaScript so we can control them later. In this lesson, we're going to select our HTML elements. Remember from the previous lesson that we made some HTML elements, which are what I highlighted here, and we were also able to add styles to them. Container, input button, and another list. So let me just I want to just separate this so we know what we are working on. So the first styles are just for what we have for the old web page, but now we're working on our to-do list. So let me call this to-do list styles. So now let's build on what we had before. If you look closely at our HTML, we have this. We are necessarily not going to need this because we already have it as a topic. So let me remove it. So it's no longer needed there. Now our app should have more breathing space and more layouts. Now, if you click on this button now, it's actually not doing anything. If I try to inspect to see what is actually happening whenever I click a button, we are likely not going to get much. Let's see. You can see that nothing is being added to the console. So let's move into our script section and let's begin to add some JavaScript code so that we can learn how we can select elements. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be adding that script element just before the end of our body tag. So let's go ahead and then let's just add our script tag here. Script open, scripts scripts open and scripts close rather. So now in this lesson, like I said earlier, we are not going to be adding any task yet. Instead, we will teach how to use JavaScript to find the input box, the add task button, as well as the taxes, that is our input button and our on order list. Now, before JavaScript can change or interact with an HTML element, it must first find that element. Think of JavaScript as a person that is looking for items in a room. If you tell someone, for example, and say, bring me the pen or bring me the chair, they first have to find the chair or the pen before they can move it. The same way is how JavaScript works. Before it can reach the input, respond to a button click, or add a task to the list, it must first locate the items. And so in this example, in this lesson, we want to look at three things that JavaScript is going to help us do. So for our use case, we want to use JavaScript to select three HTML elements that we have for our to-do app. Number one is the input task input. Number two is the add task input button, and the last is the to-do list. So let's move into the script tag now, and let's go ahead to add our JavaScript code. So here I am in the script tag, and I want to add a comment. Select the input element, which is the first thing that you want to do in this example. So in order to select the input element, let's make a variable and let's call it task input. And for this task input, if you look closely at our input element here, you will see that it has an ID attached to it with an ID of task. So with this ID, we can use JavaScript to target this ID to select this particular element. And how do you do it? Well, use a method called document.getElement by ID in JavaScript, and you can use it to target the ID of that particular element. And now we have selected it. Now let's go ahead and do the same for the button element. So let's make a variable. Let's call this one add button. And let's use the same method, document.getElement by ID, to select our button ID. And our button here, as you can see, has no ID. So we are going to have to add an ID to it. So let's give it an ID of add button. and you can easily use this method to target it. So we have selected the button and then we have also targeted it and extract the ID by using that method to target it. So now that we have done this now, it remains the final one, which is our input list. So I'll go ahead, add a comment, and say select the list item. And for the list item, let's give it a variable as well too. So let's call it our task list and use the same method dot get element by ID in order to target the ID, and our task, our list has an ID of list. So it's very pretty straightforward. And then this way we have been able to we have successfully targeted the IDs of our HTML elements. Now let's check this out to know what is really happening. Let's try and log this to the console. Log to the console. If I do console.log task inputs. Now, before we check, what do you think is going to happen? Well, let's find out. Now, if I give this more space, now you can see this input ID task, type text, placeholder, enter a task. So we just successfully logged what we have inside our task input onto the console through the help of this method that we use to target the ID of our element. So if I do the same for the other things that we have to, that is how everything is going to be logged to the console. Like I said, JavaScript in this example is just used to target those elements. It is not going to make them do anything yet. If you click on add task, for example, if I put a task like say bring a chair and I click on this add task, it is not going to do anything yet because we have only used our JavaScript code in this lesson to target the ID of our HTML elements, and targeting the ID alone is not going to make it work or interactive. We'll continue in the next lesson to see how we can continue to enhance our to-do list app. Now, like I said earlier, that before JavaScript can interact with an HTML element, it first has to find it. And in this example, we use the document.getElement by ID method to search for our elements with their IDs. And once this JavaScript code finds it, it stores it in a variable. For example, you can see that each of these has a variable. And the purpose is that so that we can make use of this later. Although, like I demonstrated now, nothing changes on the page yet. If you click on add task, it's not doing anything. But with what we have now, JavaScript now knows where our input button and task list are. And that is why when I did the console.log task input, we were able to see that display in our console. So let's move on to enhancing our to-do application, our to-do list application